Welcome to the Audi RS6, and in this video we're going to talk about whether or not you should blow over 100 grand for one of these cars. This specific car that I'm in, a beautiful ultra blue carbon black trim model. On the road price, £112,000. So this is not cheap. For those of you who don't know much about the RS6, which I'm guessing is not a lot of you because everyone knows about the RS6, but for those of you who don't, what we get here is a 4-litre V8 turbocharged engine. It has 590 brake horsepower and 590 foot-pounds of torque. It will deliver 0 to 62 miles per hour in around 3.5 seconds. And it will go all the way up to about 190 miles per hour if you spec in the de-restricted pack, for those of you who like an Autobahn or two. Now, the RS6 is a big car. It's a big car. There's no hiding around the bush. It's wide, it's muscular, it's a bit of a brute. It has extremely crazy road presence. And all you got to do is look at this thing and go, yep, that's a serious car. And not only does it look good and does it have that performance, style and functionality, it's very practical. And we're going to touch on that a little bit later on. But before we do, let's quickly check out its kind of performance, right? Let's see what 0 to 62 miles per hour looks like from this 4-litre V8. So we've got no one behind us. Let's slow her down. We do have all-wheel drive. We have an 8-speed ZF box. This should fly. Wow, that's quick. That is quick. It hooks up. And also, it hooks up really well because of two things. Obviously, 4-wheel drive, so 3. But this has 22-inch 10.5J wheels. With the carbon pack, you get the larger 22-inch wheels. But also, it's a pretty heavy car. And with heavy cars, thank you, nice Porsche. And with pretty heavy cars, it means that the likelihood of traction and slip is nowhere near it would be of a car that is extremely light. So, first question, how does it drive? As you would expect from an Audi product, extremely on point, extremely precise. It is heavy, as I said, so you do feel its weight a little bit, but because this has got kind of the rear wheel steer and the 4-wheel drive, you can really push it out of corners and still have that luxury that the front is also pulling you. It's quite dynamic as well, you know, you can throw it around, look at that. It is just lovely. Brakes, very good as I avoid that puddle. All you got to do is look at the size of the brakes to know that this thing means business. But if you look at the styling of the RS6 and how it's kind of grown over the years, for me, this model, not only is it large, but it's also extremely good looking. It's got beautiful laser matrix LED lights that kind of do this little light dance when you open the car. But the haunches, the rear haunches, if you look at this thing from the rear, it's got such an aggressive stance to it. When you couple that with 22-inch wheels, it just looks phenomenal. It looks phenomenal. But what about its practicality and its interior? And is it really worth that 100K? Well, I'm going to park up in a moment and I'll touch on that. But I'm going to just quickly go back to the dynamics, because I drove this car. In fact, I drove it a couple of years ago when I went to pick up my French Bulldog. It's quite a special car. It reminds you of very, very good times. But how does it feel, you know, as a driver? Well, I feel like I'm in not a barge, because that's not the right thing to say, but I feel like I'm in just a very muscular, heavy piece of metal that means business. And even sitting here from a driver's perspective, extremely nice seating position. You know, these leather seats, they're really comfy. I've got the nice Alcantara steering wheel, and of course with the new Audi models I get RS mode, so I can pre-program all of my modes to how I want them to be. It's got so much low down grunt, this thing as well. It does have that kind of mild hybrid to give it a hand, but it doesn't really do much. It's mainly there for emissions only. But my word, does this thing pull like a train. And if you have a listen, yes, of course there is a bit of that enhanced cabin noise, but it does sound good. If we do it, slow it down again. Listen. What a thing. What a thing. Although, now I'm going to recall back a scenario. In fact, it was around this time last year, because I went to the Nürburgring 24-hour race and I took an Audi RS4 to that. And when you're looking at kind of dynamics and capability, whilst the RS6 is an absolute brute, it's definitely larger, so if you have a large family and you want to load the boot up, yes, this is definitely an option, but it's also a lot more expensive. And I recall when I left the Nürburgring, myself and Joe Achilles, Joe had an R8 and I had the RS4. Now, we went up into the mountains, and from a driving dynamics perspective, the capability of that RS4 was superb. It felt much more nimble through the corners than this RS6 does. This, whilst it's brilliant and it's dynamically capable, I can absolutely feel that weight. There's more weight. There's 2,100 kilograms of this weight. It's quite heavy. The RS4, it's much cheaper, and I almost felt more connected to the car. Yes, it doesn't have a V8, you know, I think it's a 3-litre V6 engine, but still. If you gave me a choice, and this is going to be quite controversial, I guess, if you gave me a choice, RS6 or RS4, personally, for my own personal preference, I think I'd choose the RS4. It's smaller, it's easy to get around town. I don't think people you don't really realise how large this new RS6 is until you actually get in and you drive it. You look out the mirrors and you think, flipping out, I'm really close to the side of the road, or I'm about to cross over the white lines. It is a heavy, heavy car. It is a wide, wide car, but my word, is it a good car. And I've been driving it in sport, but I can easily put it into comfort mode, dynamic. You get all the usual stuff that you'd expect. I'm not teaching you to suck eggs. In terms of its abilities and usability, I think that's where the RS6 really shines. If you just want to cruise around in it, very, very comfortable with its kind of solid suspension, adaptive suspension setup. So you have the benefits of gliding over roads like this, which are not the most comfortable, albeit the suspension is still relatively stiff on the RS6. But when you want to open it up, you get all that brute force from the 4-litre V8, and 3.5 seconds in an estate family car is unbelievable, which is why so many people say that the RS6 is the ultimate daily car. Do I agree with them? I do in most instances. The only part that I disagree with it in is day-to-day use. I think the RS4 is more practical, personal preference. And I think the RS4 is the one that I would have. But hey, look, as an overall package, this RS6 is just superb. It rides well. The comfort in here is just superb. The tech, well, I say the tech, but you all just really all use Apple CarPlay, won't you? But it gives you everything you need and more. The only thing that I just can't stomach, but then it is the case with all new cars, is 112 grand this car. Could you get more car for the money? And I think it'd be a stretch, but could you get 90% of this car and save yourself 20, 30 grand with an RS4? Probably.